You've seen the updates already. Iran reinforcing air defense, China supplying systems, missile production numbers being discussed everywhere. None of that is hidden. It's circulating all over the internet. But I think most people are reacting to the headlines and missing the structural issue underneath. So let's slow it down. Capacity is the real story here. This isn't about one strike or one ceasefire, it's about capacity. The United States produces roughly 500 to 600 Patriot interceptors per year. Russia produces over 800 offensive missiles annually. And remember, you may need more than one interceptor to stop a single incoming missile. That's not political commentary, that's math. Wars of attrition don't test who makes the better speech. They test who can replenish what they expend. That's what we're actually watching here. Not just movements on a map, but the limits of industrial systems. Now let's talk about the cost problem. Each interceptor can cost somewhere between $12 and $13 million. A THAAD battery runs close to $1 billion. So every defensive action is not just a military decision, it's a capital decision. Now ask yourself something simple. Can your system fire at that scale for months, maybe years, without exhausting itself? Defense production in the US operates largely through private contractors. They expand capacity when there's a clear business case. That makes sense inside a profit-driven structure, but defense isn't a consumer market. If your entire defense industry is optimized around margin, surge capacity becomes expensive, and expensive defense is fragile defense. In peacetime, that looks inefficient. In wartime, it becomes dangerous. Now add the supply chain issue. Advanced weapons systems rely on rare earth components, high-temperature magnets, precision parts. A significant portion of that supply chain runs through China. So now you're in strategic competition with a country that supplies key inputs to your own defense systems. That's not strength, that's dependency. Independence isn't a slogan. It's whether you can build, finance, and defend without relying on your rival for core inputs. If you can't, sovereignty becomes conditional, and conditional sovereignty doesn't hold up well under pressure. This is where the real divide appears. The divide isn't ideological, it's structural. Some systems are organized around profit, others are organized around national purpose. If profit is the organizing principle, you outsource production to cut costs. You minimize redundancy, you trim excess capacity, you optimize for efficiency. That works very well in stable global markets. It works less well in long conflicts. If your purpose is independence, you build differently. You maintain domestic manufacturing even when it's not the cheapest option. You maintain excess capacity even when it lowers margins. You coordinate infrastructure nationally. You direct credit toward production instead of speculation, because independence requires preparation. Profit can be a tool. It cannot be the purpose. Let's talk about credit. If your financial system is dominated by speculative capital, money flows toward the highest short-term return. Not toward factories, not toward surge capacity, not toward resilience. If your purpose is independence, credit has to serve national development. Otherwise, industry serves investors first and sovereignty second. And when long-term pressure arrives, that distinction matters because you cannot mobilize what you never built. Then there's manufacturing. A nation that consumes what it does not produce becomes dependent on those who produce it. That dependency is manageable when trade is stable. It becomes leverage when trade is weaponized. Domestic manufacturing is not about nostalgia. It's about insulation. It's about having control over essential inputs. It's about reducing your exposure to foreign choke points. If you cannot produce what you need, someone else controls your limits. Infrastructure determines endurance. You cannot scale production without infrastructure, ports, rail, energy grids, transport corridors. These are instruments of sovereignty. If infrastructure is fragmented or optimized purely for private return, surge becomes slow. And in conflict, slow becomes costly. Independence requires coordination, not just efficiency. Now, here's the bigger historical pattern. Empires rarely collapse because they lack ambition. They collapse because profit becomes the organizing principle. Expansion generates revenue. Revenue justifies more expansion. Over time, the system optimizes for extraction instead of endurance. Manufacturing hollows out. Credit financializes. Industry outsources. The structure keeps expanding because expansion pays, like someone blowing up a balloon and ignoring the material limits. Eventually, the constraint asserts itself. That's not drama. That's structural physics. So what's the real question? The real question isn't who wins the next strike. The real question is which system was built to endure. The one optimized for margin, or the one organized around purpose? Because in prolonged competition between nations, endurance matters more than dominance. And endurance depends on independent credit, domestic manufacturing, coordinated infrastructure, innovation aligned with national mission, and defense production that can scale without bankrupting the state. If industries abuse their privilege, overcharge, underproduce, prioritize margin over resilience, the weakness stays hidden in peacetime. War exposes it, and when it's exposed, it's often too late to fix quickly. That's the structural lesson here. Not the headlines, not the personalities, the structure underneath. And in the long run, the nation that organizes around independence and purpose will outlast the nation that organizes around profit alone. That's the real issue behind all of this. Everything else is surface movement.